the structure that I had architected, when I was clear and strong, those systems didn't just keep the business running, they protected my heart. And they gave me enough space to find my way back. Not as the same person, but as a deeper, more intentional version of the leader that I was meant to be. You know, most of us start building with someone else's blueprint. Typically, we react versus create. And also typically, most of you follow your previous leader's path. Because unconsciously, what you're doing is you're seeking comfort instead of intention. But the key is when you find yourself being a reactive leader instead of an intentional leader, is really to acknowledge that moment and choose to shift. What if I told you that the same principles to design buildings could be used to design your business, even your life? I'm going to show you 3 pillars that I've used to architect my business. First is the foundation. And when I mean foundation, I don't mean goals. I mean your core values, your vision. You know, the reality is that your culture is shaped by the values that you tolerate. In our business, we have 4 core values, which are family, action, collaboration, and trust. You see, these are not just words on the wall. These are core values that are lived out daily by all of us. You know, there's a saying that says, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. And in our case, the reason why we chose family and how we serve this word is not just through the way that we celebrate our agents, but we also have a culture manager who is always checking in on them, you know, making sure that they're doing okay, because if they're not, we want to know. And if that's the case, whether good or bad, we get notified. Action is also a core value for us because we understand that knowledge without action is worthless. Just like many of you, we put a lot of effort into teaching them, into training them, but without them taking action, it's worthless. Collaboration is a must in our environment. We offer a lot of support to our agents, and we've learned that by simply asking them to collaborate, they're actually happy to help. And trust, as you all know, is the foundation of any human relationship. And we make sure they understand that because we want them to know that they can trust us in every sense. We even use our core values as the framework of our interview presentation. When we're meeting with a new agent, we walk them through the process of what we bring to the table. And we've been able to fit every single value we bring under one of our core values. You know, part of a solid foundation is to also have a clear purpose. But we don't treat purpose as a slogan, but as a standard. Part of my job is to regularly visit our purpose with our team. But the reality about purpose is that purpose changes per audience. Your purpose for your agents is not the same purpose with your customers. The purpose you see here is our purpose with our agents, and if you scan this QR code, you'll be able to see our consumer-facing purpose through our website, which was designed specifically for them. Values and purpose will inspire, but systems are the ones that are going to allow you to sustain the culture. The foundation of a business can only be as strong as the foundation of its leader. You see, you can't build a sustainable business on a broken soul. Just like the business, the leader needs to also architect and design what you want your life to be like. This is an example of all of my important categories. For example, the family memory maker is the category in which we plan out all of our family vacations, the connection that we want to make with our immediate family. The fit, powerful, and unstoppable is the category where I plan out all of my weekly fitness goals and my nutrition. The deal-making champions is our sales department. This is where we plan out the strategies to help our agents be more successful. And with the help of AI and ChatGPT, I have my own digital clone, so what I do on a weekly basis is my GPT already knows all of these categories. It knows what's important to me, so when I plan out my week and I explain what I'm trying to accomplish, it automatically helps me schedule everything based on what matters most to me. The second part of this blueprint is the structure. You see, people always come and go, but systems stay. That's why when you design systems, you have to design processes over personalities. Here's an example of the departments in our business and the standard operating procedures that we have per department. You see, the systems are what keep the machine running. To give you an example, in our sales department, our roster review is a weekly process that we follow to see how our agents are doing. Just like you would an athletic team, we take a look at what all of our agents are doing, how are they performing, are they on our top, middle, or bottom tier? How can we help them go from middle to top or from bottom to middle? And that's a weekly process. Also, in our operations department, we have a weekly meeting. And basically what we do with the weekly meeting is we share amongst all our departments any open projects, and we get to collaborate in order to move the needle and move things forward. You know, systems are a fundamental piece, but without staff running those systems, it's very difficult. Here's an example of what each member of our staff does in each department. And these departments are interconnected. So for example, our operations department works with our culture department whenever we are onboarding a new agent. A while back, I learned that instead of delegating, you need to leverage. And the difference between delegation and leverage is that when you delegate, you're basically letting go. But when you leverage, you stay involved. I use the 10-80-10 framework because what I realized was that as the leader, I was the main chokehold of my own business. So by using the 10-80-10 framework, what I do is I'm involved in the first 10% of the project, right? That's where I share the vision. Then the owner of the project does 80% of the work. And once they're done with that, then we meet again, I review, give the final approval, and then we execute. The third piece of the blueprint is the design. And You know, the design is the fun part. This is where you decide what your business is gonna feel like. But when you get to this point, it's important that you design based on connection, not just achievement. Part of what we do with design is really the whole experience inside of our company. What's success? I've learned that success is an opinion. We all have different definitions of success. But defining what success means to you is crucial. And it's really going to be the fuel that you're going to need when things get hard. This is my success. My success is my family. But what I've learned is that your season defines your success. Inspiration changes. And you have to be okay with that. Because here's what happens. Even when you have a well-designed blueprint, there will be a time that you're going to have to redesign. And you have to be prepared for that. Which is the next part of my blueprint, which is the redesigning phase. Because it's not if, it's when you're gonna have to redesign. And I know that redesigning or reinventing can feel scary and overwhelming, but it's part of the process. And the reality is that it's probably not gonna happen just once. It's probably gonna be multiple times throughout the time of your career. And one thing I've learned with redesigning is that, you know, sometimes what feels like falling apart is really you falling into alignment. Now, from my experience, I've learned that there are 4 stages to the redesign process. First stage is clarity. And clarity starts with the blocks that I showed you earlier, my personal blocks. When you get to the point of redesigning, you have to get clear about what matters most to you in your life. Because the second part of the redesign is the commitment. And committing requires purpose. If you are committing all over again to things that don't bring you purpose, then you're setting yourself up for failure. You see, we don't rise to the level of our intentions, we fall to the level of our commitments. The third piece of the redesign is your people, is your circle. You have to audit your circle. You have to make sure that you are around people that give you energy, not suck your energy. Surround yourself by people who are propellers, not anchors. And this is the most important step, which is action. You must take massive action. You have to literally get obsessed about this process. And the ultimate result of your redesign is this: clarity, purpose, and joy. You know, to me, clarity comes when you stop guessing and you start listening. Purpose comes when you surrender your plan for a greater one. And joy. Joy is what you feel when you're walking in the life that you were called to build. Because in reality, that's what we're all after, right? We're not after just transactions, not just titles, but clarity, so that we stop chasing the wrong things. Purpose is what we know that we're building, is what we know, is what we feel that we're building. And joy is so that we can actually enjoy what we've built. And here's what I've learned. You don't get those things by accident. You make them happen by design. The truth is that you can't avoid suffering. You cannot control every outcome, but you can control your blueprint. You can decide to stop building like a contractor and start leading like the architect that you were born to be. You see, I feel like you weren't just born to lead, you were designed to lead. With faith, with purpose, and with vision. Thank you.
Please welcome to the